is Jenny C, back again to talk about Gotham. I've been looking forward to Gotham for about a month because I just got into this fandom, being so recommended by a lot of the people I follow, and so I was like, okay, I'm going to jump into it, and I was at first like panned it, and then I started to love it. I mean, I was all over it. It doesn't help that I am a Batman nut, so yeah. And oh my God, season 1 finale was awesome. I was so wanted to know what they were going to do, what would happen in the season 1 finale, and I am pleasantly surprised in this episode. Oh my God, let's get to the deets. First and foremost, Barbara King, people. Barbara King went from being a pretty white bread, boring as hell character to being awesome. And the best thing that ever happened to her character, to be honest, is her going crazy. Oh my God, I was here for it all through the episode. She was full sass. She took no shit and no prisoners, and I was loving it. And she was so rocking that Fatal Attraction vibe. I was like, you're going to boil a rabbit next? Just saying. Really love the rapport between Barbara and Jerome, who plays sort of pre-Joker before he sort of, painted his face white and put on makeup. But I really love the rapport between those two. I have a feeling, Cole the Wolf has a feeling that she's going to be this universe's Harley Quinzel. And I'm like, as a person who loves Harley in the comics, I'm kind of like, But for someone who loves the show and realize that as a comic book nerd, you just got to let your comic book knowledge go, because they are not even trying to follow the comic book canon at all. Not really. Everything is loosely based, like really loosely based on the comics themselves. So you just got to let that go. And so once you let that go, you're fine. And so I'm actually quite fine with her stepping in and being this versus Harley Quinn. So I'm really excited about that. I also really liked Oswald. But Oswald's always my favorite because he's a murderous, manipulative bastard. I mean, Oswald Cobblepot is what Peter Hale should have been in Teen Wolf, to be honest. This is what a really great villain looks like. I mean, seriously. Someone who's manipulative, someone who's murderous and ruthless. This is what Peter Hale should have been in the end. And that's why I'm like loving it. Because I don't necessarily love canon Peter Hale, because he went from being a villain I could sort of, root for a little bit to being sort of, a joke. But I really love what they're doing, what the writers are doing with Oswald. He is ruthless and manipulative, and he's just working it. And he was really macabre this episode. I mean, at one point he was playing with a severed head. So, yeah, I was really here for it. I also really love Oswald and Jim's relationship, because he's sort of the enabler. He's sort of trying to push Jim down to being dark, sort of giving enough rope for him to hang himself, basically. And I love it, because you can really see that if Jim went dark, that they would be fabulous for each other. Fabulous. They would be like a match made in heaven. So I really love that. And a part of me who's like, do it, Jim. Do it. But another part of me who loves Jim Gordon from the comics, and again, I have to let that go, is like, no. Another thing that I really, 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 really liked was the parallels between Bruce's evolution into becoming Batman and Jim's sort of fall from grace. I really like that. I really, really liked it. I didn't get towards the end what that was supposed to have been, but once I realized, and I was like, oh, that is really well done and subtle. I really liked it. I wanted to smack Bruce this episode because he was being a little brat, like white, rich privilege all over the place. Like, and I'm like, this dude lost his career that he's worked his whole entire life for. Show a little respect, you little brat. I was like that. And normally I love Bruce Wayne, but even when he's a dick in the comics. So I was really surprised how I just wanted to slap the shit out of Bruce. And I don't even advocate child abuse like that, but I just wanted to just, bitch slap him a little bit. Alfred continues to be awesome. I was really surprised in the series that Alfred is really more sort of lowbrow, a little more rough around the edges than we see in the comic book canon, because in the comic book canon he's all up, stiff upper lip and, very sort of, I wouldn't say prudish, but proper. None of that with Alfred. Actually, this portrayal of Alfred reminds me a lot of the Adam Scott's Alfred and his sort of virtual series of Batman. And I'll be reviewing that later. What I didn't like, or what else did I want to talk about? This new guy on the block, he's played by a really well-known actor. You've probably most likely seen him on True Blood. I forgot what his name is because I'm really horrible with names. But he does really well with really sort of villainous characters. I'm overjoyed to see him that he's joined the Motley Crue. He sort of broke out like the biggest, baddest villains from last season out. And it feels very, very much like sort of almost I tip their hat to the Suicide Squad. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be awesome. Also, we see, Barbara's going after, Leslie. I hate that she's all about Jim in the end. To me, I really want her sort of downward spiral to be about her. And about her watching her parents being brutally murdered in front of her, and not necessarily about Jim. I want also Barbara to sort of take the new villain guy and just basically play him for a fool and just like take over, because she has the intelligence and the chops to do it, and I really want to see another woman just sort of in power, because I miss Fish Mooney because she was so different, because she was a woman and she was in power and she didn't take no shit, and I love that. And I would like to have more women characters in this particular series have that personality. So I'm hoping for it. Let's cross your fingers. Oh, another thing I want to talk about is the destruction of Leslie and Jim's relationship. I actually supported Cannily. They're very cute together. They feel more real to me than Barbara and Jim did. But Jim's descent into being bad, into the dark side, is going to put a huge nail in the coffin of their relationship, and I don't think they're going to ever recover for that. It's like Tony Pepper. I support them candidly, but I see like the cracks in their relationship. I feel the same way towards Leslie and Jim. I want to talk about how I don't really see this Jim being the Jim that we see in the comics, because he's moving more and more away from that personality. And it seems like this Sin into Darkness is going to be very hard for him to come back from. I am kind of, curious to see how they end up sort of making it go round table with him sort of being Batman's ally and him being the cop and the person that he was in the comics. I want to see how they try to do that or make it towards the end. Basically, I give this episode an A-. Very well done. Very well written. Had some issues with a couple of things, but for the most part, another well done episode from Gotham. So I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. I'm done.